It's a great pleasure to have with us Mr. Sanjiv Bajaj, who's the president of CII. Thank you so much for joining us, and just first of all, your overall take on the budget.
Thanks, Vikram, for having me here. Overall, a very balanced, growth-oriented yet prudent budget, where the finance minister has managed to support the economy through a 33% increase in public infra capex. This will have a force multiplier, creating new jobs, new opportunities, and help us with growth. And yet, at the same time, stay within the fiscal deficit target set out. So 6.4% this year, going below 6 to 5.9% next year. So that's been very solid. We've seen a number of announcements to improve efficiency and productivity in the entire agri supply chain. I think that's very welcome, as also support from additional outlays towards climate change and the green transition period. Education, another significant area in which the government has announced support, and equally importantly in supporting the masses through rationalizing their personal income tax slabs and rates. So I would say overall a very balanced budget.
Now, I know you at CII and other industry associations spend a lot of time with the government, with the finance minister in the months leading up to it, with a list of what you would really like to see. So if you could check off for us, what were the main items on your agenda and how many of them were met today?
So I've already done that and very happy to say that almost everything significant that we asked of has been checked off.
Such as, if you could just run us through the list.
So we actually suggested the 10 lakh crore public infra, the 33% growth.
Okay, the
so
infrastructure spending as well.
that is done. The rationalizing of the tax rates for personal income tax, especially at the lower end. So that is done. Yeah. The efficiency improvement on the agri side, that is done. We've talked about new job creation and focus on education and health, and we've seen announcements in both these areas. So if you actually see a whole bunch of recommendations being accepted, God is always in the execution.
Yeah, and sometimes in the fine print. I mean, this is a very short speech, which is great. It's almost surprising to have a 1.5 hour speech.
The bureaucrat's revenge is in the tail, right?
Yeah, but sometimes it's the fine print. So when it's a very short speech, you sometimes worry a little bit what's in the fine print, which I guess you haven't seen either.
Not seen yet. We will go through it with a fine comb soon.
Yeah, retrospective tax was in the fine print. I remember that.
There are two things which I would have liked to see, which I didn't see. Yeah. One was healthcare spending.
Yeah.
We've talked, especially COVID has brought out the very poor infrastructure in primary health services all over the country. I don't think enough was said about it. Okay. The second is ease of doing business. Of course, that ranking is no longer there. We expected something positive on resolution of contracts. There was something about e-courts which I couldn't just follow. But remember, it's about 8 years it takes to have a civil money recovery suit settled in this country. This is what really brought us down. And the NCLT process is not working as well as we thought.
Okay. So there's always an unfinished agenda.
Yeah, and I thought we could see more of that.
Is that one of the areas that you still are hoping it's work in process, the entire ease of doing business? It's obviously, it's ostensibly a priority, but obviously it's a lot more still needs to be done to make India a good place to do business.
That ends up very much being a moving target. And the finance minister announced the number of changes in rules and regulations that they had done. She's also announced an entire review of the regulations across the regulators. I think that's a very strong positive move, including public recommendations being taken into account. Let's also see the entire support to states being given and encouragement for creating a viable muni bond environment as well. The state capex support towards that, incentivizing it with the interest-free 50-year-old loan, but it all has to be consumed in the next 1 year. Again, very positive move.
So if you had to now go on pressing, because budgets are not one-off exercises anymore. A lot gets done in the rest of the year, and you as the president of CII will continue to have a lot of work ahead of you. What would be the main items you're going to be pressing the government for? Would it be ease of doing business? Would it be other pending items that are remaining to be sorted out?
Execution on a large number of these suggestions or these plans. Continued focus on decriminalizing business rules and improving ease of doing business, because each of these will provide tailwinds to everything that is being suggested today in the budget.
Right. On the question of one of the other things that was done on income, on taxation, right? Of course, we've gone past, I think not too much tinkering, at least we could see on indirect taxes. The fact that she reduced the highest slab 1 year before an election, I think a lot of people's eyebrows were raised because it is counterintuitive. Is that in a sense a signal that stay in India, keep investing in India, keep your companies out here, we will not punish wealth creators?
I very much believe so. This government has always said that creating successful businesses and in the right ways making money is good. It's good for the economy. That's not a bad thing to do. And yes, it was a pleasant surprise. It also is once again a way to keep comparing us with the other competitive economies to see that how do we stay aligned, if at all more efficient.
Right. When it comes to the other major highlight of the budget, which is infrastructure, 10 lakh crores for you, is that, it seems to be a new theory that this government is saying, we don't care how much we have to spend on infrastructure, it is good, it's what the country needs, and it crowds in private sector.
It's equal a recognition to say that while the revival period is over for the economy, we have to now set ourselves on very strong growth. There is a significant hope for private sector investment as well, but this ends up complementing that at a period where it is required. Yep.
All right, Mr. Bajaj, I know you have a very busy afternoon ahead of you. Thank you so much for having joined us. Such a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us. Great. We have Andrew still with us. Andrew, quick reaction to what you heard.
I'm really struck that the CII is saying that they've got everything that they wanted from this budget. Normally, you'd get a reaction which is good, but they've said they've got everything they wanted. I don't think I've ever heard those words from an employers' organisation, certainly here in the UK or in India, immediately after the budget. So that demonstrates that the Finance Minister delivered a very business-friendly budget. I still have a question about whether really more should be done about income inequalities and whether there's been very much in the budget which addresses one of the most profound problems, which is urban unemployment. I didn't hear very much about that in the budget.